The Jalu in Tibetan, or body of light, realized through the practice of Dzogchen is different from the Jilu, or illusory body, realized through the practices of the higher tantras. The Jilu is dependent on the subtle prana of the individual, and thus, since prana is always considered to be of the relative dimension in Dzogchen, this Jilu is not considered to be total realization. The Jalu, or body of light itself, is a way of manifesting realization that is particular to the masters who have carried the practice of the Longde or of the Menengde to their ultimate level, and with only very short breaks in the lineage, it has continued to be manifested right up to the present day. The master of my master, Changchub Dorje, achieved this level of realization. Changchub Dorje was present at the time, so I know that it is not a fable. My master told me how his master, Nyagla Pema Dundul, called all his disciples together, both those who were farther away and those who were close at hand, and told them he wanted to transmit some teachings that he had until then not given them in full. So he transmitted these teachings, and then they practiced the Gana Puja together for more than a week. Gana Puja is an excellent way of eliminating disturbances between master and disciple, and between disciple and disciple. Then, at the end of that week, Nyagel Pema Dundul announced to them that it was time for him to die, and that he intended to do so on a certain mountain nearby. His disciples implored him not to die, but he said that it was time, and that there was nothing to be done about it. So they all accompanied him up the mountain to a place where he set up a little tent. Then he had his disciples sew up the tent completely, sealing him inside it, and he asked to be left in peace for 7 days. The disciples went down the mountain and waited, camped at the foot of it for 7 days, during which time it rained a great deal and there were many rainbows. Then they went back up and opened the tent, which was sewn up just as they had left it. All that they found inside was their master's clothes, his hair, and his fingernails and toenails. His clothes were the clothes of a lay person, and they remained there in a heap where he had been sitting, with the belt still wrapped around the middle. He had left them just like a snake sheds its skin. My master was present and told me this story, so I know that it is true and that such realization is possible. I know many other such stories, but there is a particularly interesting one that my uncle Todden told me. In 1952, in the area of Tibet that I come from, there lived an old man who, when he was young, had been a kind of servant or assistant to a Dzogchen master for a few years, and who had thus naturally heard many teachings. But for the rest of his life he had just lived very simply, cutting mantras into stone for a living. He lived in this way for many years, and no one took much notice of him, or thought that he was a practitioner. But then one day he announced that he was going to die in 7 days' time, and sent a message to his son, who was a monk, saying that he wanted to leave all his possessions as an offering to the monastery where his son lived. The monastery spread the news far and wide that this man had said that he wanted to be left closed up for 7 days to die, and since everyone understood the significance of this, many people came and the whole thing became a public event. There were representatives of all the various Buddhist schools, from the great monasteries, and even members of the Chinese administration, who at that time were all military personnel. Thus, when they opened the room inside which the man had been locked for 7 days, there were many people present, and what they saw was that the man had left no body, only his hair and nails. The impurities of the body were left. My uncle the yogi came to see me at my father's house just after he had witnessed this event, and his eyes were full of tears as he told me about it. He said it was a terrible tragedy that none of us had known enough to recognize that this seemingly ordinary person living so close to us had actually been a very great practitioner from whom we could have received teaching. But this is how it is with practitioners of Dzogchen. There is nothing to be seen on the outside.